Hello, Bach here,
Hello, Bach here.
and today I want to share with you a bit about my life.
My full name is Johann Sebastian Bach.
Keep that in mind as there are many Bachs.
I am the youngest of 8 children. My family were well-known musicians, which is where my education in music began.
And my father being a town musician, this certainly helped me in the beginning of my musical education. At the age of 10, tragedy struck. Both my mom and my dad were killed within a year of each other. I started out my first serious position as a violinist and organist at the ruling court in Weimar in 1703.
In 1707, I married my cousin and had 7 children.
Several of them went on to be quite successful musicians themselves. By 1708, I had a new position and had composed some of my more famous pieces. It was in 1717 that I composed some of my most significant works, such as the legendary Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1. And to impress upon you how significant this work was, it is still studied today by anyone who wishes to become a master of the keyboard. I also composed my Brandenburg concertos during this time, which were ironically a failed audition. They went on to be a lot more successful than I could have ever imagined.
I am quoted for my recognition of God in music, saying, "The final aim and reason of all music is nothing other than the glorification of God and the refreshment of the Spirit."
I also had no room for any low standards. In fact, on one occasion, I let a bassoonist know exactly how I felt, saying his bassoon playing was like that of a nanny goat. He did not take lightly this comment and later attacked me with a wooden staff, to which I responded in kind with a dagger. Fortunately, neither one of us were hurt. To me, many people rely too much on talent and not enough on their own industry.
What I have achieved by industry and practice, anyone else with tolerable natural gift and ability can also achieve.
I was also good friends with Silverman, a piano maker. Although it did not start out this way. You see, pianos in my day were new and rather fickle things, not having near the power and resilience you know them to have today.
Rather, they were often weak, out of tune things with not very many keys. My honest opinion again praised another, and my contemporary Johann Friedrich Agricola
Recorded the event, saying,
"One of Silverman's pianofortes was seen and played by the late Mr. Johann Sebastian Bach. He praised indeed, admired its tone, but he complained that it was too weak in the high register and too hard to play. This was taken greatly amiss by Mr. Silverman, who could not bear to have any fault found in his handiworks. He was therefore angry at Mr. Bach for a long time, and yet his conscience told him that Mr. Bach was not wrong. He therefore decided, greatly to his credit be it said, not to deliver any more of the instruments, but instead to think harder about how to eliminate the faults Mr. J.S. Bach had observed."
In fact, on one occasion, I deliberately opened an A flat.
The worst sounding key, just to let him know there was work to do yet. We did become good friends.
Alas, in 1820, my wife died. I did remarry and had 13 more kids, 20 in total, 10 however died in infancy. By 1723, I had written several more extremely significant works. One job I had taken was sacred, and they would not let me quit. Naturally, I quit. I was done. And as a result, they put me in jail, understandably, since I was not supposed to be able to quit. After 30 days, they finally let me have my way, and I was freed. My most significant achievements, however, are in music. I was famous for crab canyons, which could be played both forwards and backwards. Music theory was barely an idea, and much of what you study today is merely what I did out of habit, because I thought it was a good idea. Now, my common habits are the habits being taught practically as law in first-year theory courses. I hid my name in music and wrote musical riddles, many of which were not solved until after my death. Those are good riddles.
In a letter to the king, who was a great appreciator of my work and wanted to hear me play one of his recently obtained pianos.
He did have several of them, even though many of them were not well kept and in tune. In this exchange, I wrote for him a famous piece, which upon its repeating loop appears to ascend endlessly, despite the very same notes being played. Indeed, in my letter to him, I even said, "In deepest humility, I dedicate herewith to your majesty a musical offering, the noblest part of which derives from your majesty's own august hand. You see, he gave me the theme, and not an easy one at that, a very difficult chromatic theme, which my friend Baron Gottfried van Swieten recorded the event as. The king was of this opinion, that being that I am extremely musically gifted, and to prove it, he sang aloud a chromatic fugue subject, which he had given to this old Bach, who on the spot had made of it a fugue in 4 parts, then in 5 parts, and finally in 8. This, of course, was not good enough for myself, and I went home and wrote it out to its full potential, and finding that I could achieve such an infinite effect, gladly wrote to the king. I noticed very soon, however, that for lack of necessary preparation, that being that he sang it to me and I had to improvise a fugue on the spot, the execution of the task did not fare as well as such an excellent theme demanded. I resolved, therefore, and promptly pledged myself to work out this right, royal theme more fully, and then make it known to the world.
On the final piece I have attached the following: as the modulation rises, so may the king's glory.
Indeed, for reasons such as these, with my additional thoughts and insights into the nature of music and life, I am still studied to this day. In 1740, I was going blind, so I decided to have a new experimental surgery, which caused me to go completely blind. Little did I know that this particular surgeon had actually been the cause of many blindness cases that I was unaware of. I died in 1760 at the age of 65. There is much more to be said, and the impact I left on the world is enormous. All of my works are still studied to this day. Name another composer who can say this. My works are regularly performed as auditions, and in many places are required as a part of an audition. They are performed as fine art, as things to be studied, and for those who are in the higher realms of music, studied as statements of philosophy. The greatest composers and performers, such as Chopin, would often play through my pieces, seeing them in their greatness before they would go out to perform themselves to an audience. I am humbled to have produced such an effect, and I bid you farewell.